how you can bring in leadership to everything what you do. And we have a pure leader himself to talk about these qualities. One of Sri Lanka's cricketing stars, and of course, who is widely regarded as one of the world's most influential cricketers, and one of the greatest batsmen of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one and only Mr. Kumar Sangakkara.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome former Sri Lankan Cricket Captain, Kumar Sangakkara.
Welcome, Kumar.
Thank you very much for having me. And I think after I retired, this is about the biggest crowd I've ever been in front of. And I know it's been a long day, and when you're a speaker at the end of a long day, I'm not sure about the response that you'll get, but I'll try and do my best. And the topic that you mentioned, leadership, and how to bring it into what you do every single day in whatever field that you're in. It's an interesting thing because I spend a lot of my time, 17 years, in sport. I haven't been a CEO, I haven't had training in business, I haven't actively educated myself in the corporate world, but I spent 2.5 to 3 years to maybe 4 years of my life in a nominated leadership role as a vice captain, then the captain of the national side. But before that, having grown through the ranks of the team, I played what you call a leadership role, where a senior group is entrusted with certain duties and certain responsibilities with which you try and mold the direction of a group of individuals. That was the Sri Lankan team. So I had a very different idea of leadership at that time, what it entailed, what were the qualities of a leader, and it was always very externalized. It was never a time where I looked inside myself and actually wondered what makes me tick as a person and how that in itself engenders leadership. Now that I've retired, my ideas on leadership have again changed. Because what I've realized in the last 3 years, that the most difficult aspect of leadership is not leading others, but it's about leading yourself. Looking inside yourself, understanding who you are, and being able to translate that, your core values, what makes you human, into a lifestyle that benefits not just you, not just your family, but also your community, your country, and the world at large. So it's been an interesting time and journey for me as well, trying to find out how I fit into this.
So, Kumar, we have a gathering of more than 3,500 people. Would like to know, as the leader, how important it is to have a contingency plan if something goes wrong, and how to be patient and how to look for different avenues of getting your thing done.
So yeah, I mean, having contingency plans and having all these little technicalities that you think of is fine and well. But if you look at the qualities of a leader, the most important things that you identify with are your core values. And these core values are in everyone, right? These core values are basically human values. What do you see in a leader? You see inspiration, you see example, but what is it that you admire? When you talk about leaders, when you talk about people who've inspired you, we are trained from a very young age to look outside. We talk about people we see on TV, We talk about people we read about in books. We talk about people we read in the newspaper, from Nelson Mandela to Steve Jobs to whoever you name. They're all external figures that we actually know nothing about. Zero. Do you know? I haven't met them. I don't know them personally. I know of them. So what is it that really makes a leader? How do you know? Is it the public life that you lead, the public image that you project? Or is it something so private and personal in your life that it actually projects itself from the way you live, the way you operate, the way you communicate, and most of all, in the way you build relationships with one another? Because leadership in any field is about that. Building relationships and building relationships that last. Every corporate in the world is in the relationship building business. Because that relationship you have within it and without with your customer base, that is what makes you great. So, what we learn in school and at home, integrity, honesty, accountability, your duty of care, love, being sensitive, being sensible, being accountable, being a person of integrity. These human values are what makes all of these leaders so attractive. Why? Because they don't have to expound it to you. They don't have to say it to you. You are attracted to them. They're magnetic. Why? You see it in the way they live. They see it in the way they work. You see it in the way they communicate. So how many of these qualities are actually in you? That is the first question. Basic human decency, love, respect, tolerance. These are all great attributes of leadership. So where do you learn these from as a kid? You don't learn it from Nelson Mandela. You don't learn it from Steve Jobs. You learn it at home. You learn it in schools. You learn it from your friends. You learn it from family. So the greatest inspirations, if I'm asked a question now in my life, my answer will be very different 10 years ago. 10, 15 years ago, I was asked, I would rattle out a series of names that would include every sporting great from Muhammad Ali to Sir Vivian Richards, because Vivian Richards was a cricketer. Then I would rattle off Nelson Mandela's name, talk about Martin Luther, I'll talk about this, that. But now, if I asked what made me me and what made me thrive in the environment that I was in, that of sport, as a person, as a leader, as a captain, my greatest inspiration, they've been my parents, they've been my family, because the entire foundation upon which I built my entire life has been those core values that I've been taught as an infant. And those core values, to me, are the most important asset that you hold as a leader.
In fact, you answered already one question that I received, who has been so inspirational to you. And next, we have Neela Akram sent this question. What's the difference between a boss and a true leader?
See, that's a great question, because we have similar roles in cricket as well. Being a leader is about empowerment. Going through life without purpose is the worst thing that you can do. Your entire existence is about finding out what your true purpose is. Never confuse your skill with your identity. If I ask you who you are, and you tell me I'm a cricketer, I'm a CEO, I'm a director of this company, I work in logistics, it's a bit sad. That is what you do. It is not who you are. So the true purpose, or one of the great skills of leaders, is that they identify their purpose and themselves very, very separately from their skill. So when you're a leader instead of a boss, rather than telling people what to do, although that is also a part of it, you actually lead, inspire, and empower people to become better. And that is not just in the workplace. You have to empower them to become better people. Your skill in the workplace is one part of it. But your role as a human being, the values I spoke about of earlier, getting you to be better, which in turn makes you become a leader, which in turn helps you to empower others, and on, you call it paying it forward. Now that is what a true leader does. He leaves an impression, a legacy that lasts way beyond his time, and that is not a building, that is not a business, it is not money, but it is a feeling that you've been touched and changed to be better because of having known, worked alongside, or been a part of someone else's life. So leadership to me is all of that, those little intangibles that you don't really see but you feel. And when years down the line, you look back at your own life and you come to a reference point where you think that your life would change for the better because of this one person or these people, change for the better, that is when you identify leadership. And that is very, very different to having a nominated boss who just tells you what to do or basically is in charge of a very small aspect of your life, which is your skill.
Kumar, I've been getting so many questions, so we need to accommodate them as much as possible. And Sasmika Gunaratna has asked a very quite interesting question. Do great leaders fake leadership?
That's an interesting question. Fake leadership. You see, they talk about courage, right? Courage is not the absence of fear. It is about being able to do what needs to be done in spite of fear, not letting fear cripple you. In leadership, there are times, I've had it on the cricket field, you're in absolute crisis, and the worst thing you want to do is project that onto your teammates, either by the way you express yourself, by the way you look, your body language, the way you talk. Panic is contagious. Doubt is contagious. Fear is contagious. So sometimes you have to hold that in check. It has to be held within you so that the decisions that need to be made can be made, the path that needs to be taken can be taken, and you can hold your ground steady and strong. So yes, there are times when what you say and you do will belie the actual reality of what you're feeling and thinking. But the most important thing that you do is you do that from a standpoint and foundation that is based on those values. That is one thing, no matter what you fake, you can never betray, is your humanness and the values that make you human. Because those are the very building blocks of what we call leadership.
There's another question about, this was sent by Saujat Ariel. It's about the debate whether the leaders are born or made. So he's asking whether, are you a leader born or leader made?
I think leadership is a journey. I think you have to forget the traditional role of leadership that you see. Why are all of you, 3,500 or more of you here, listening to all of us talk about leadership? All of you are budding entrepreneurs, you're in places of professional work, you're trying to build careers. You have aspirations and ambitions. So you're here to learn something that you can relate back to your work. Please do not confine leadership to what you do. Because when you do, that is when these questions arise. When you ask, is leadership in you genetically? Yes. I was listening to this Christian preacher once. My wife is a Christian, I'm a Buddhist. I go along with her sometimes to listen to a sermon. And this Christian preacher was talking about how every human being is born a winner. You know why? When the egg is fertilized, there is a race. Which sperm gets to impregnate that egg? And out of the millions and millions and millions, one gets through, impregnates the human egg, and immediately it closes itself off to any other sperm. The winner of that race impregnates the egg, and out of that comes you. So immediately he said, you are born a winner. When you ask this question, are leaders made or born? That indicates to me that you doubt whether you have that in you. It is a doubt that is unnecessary. Steps in life don't happen automatically or immediately. It is a journey from being born to where you are now to where you will go from here. Leadership is very, very similar. The lessons that you learn at a young age, how you take that to heart, how you then use it in your life, make it a part of yourself, and having the strength and the conviction to commit to a path where you will not compromise. Those values, those building blocks of your character will empower you to become a leader. If none of you are leaders, that means none of you have encountered leadership. Because leadership empowers, leadership engenders leadership. In our cricket team, our entire focus was not about one captain and 10 players. It was about having 11 leaders on the field. One nominated captain, but a group of leaders who are able not only to inspire and lead others, but more importantly, to lead themselves. So leadership is a journey. When you discover it within yourself, that is a question that I cannot answer, that only you can.
Right. The next question sent by Milan Ravinta. It's about how you can get the contribution from the other members of a team in a crisis situation.
See, in a cricket team, it's actually quite simple. A crisis situation is when your team is in trouble. You use your experience, you use your situational knowledge, you use your gut, your instinct, you use maybe the opinions of those around you that actually can help. And you must have the courage to make a decision. And with the execution of the strategy that you have now decided upon, actually go ahead and make that decision correct. In cricket, very few decisions are right or wrong. That depends on the execution of skill. So if in a crisis situation, I ask a particular bowler to bowl, that might be the absolute right decision in that situation, but if he fails to execute his skill, the decision still is not vindicated as being correct. Now in real life, it's very different. It's a lot more complex. Crisis in real life comes at you from various various sides. It could be at home, it could be at work, it could be wherever, in school, wherever. It could be in society as a whole. The most important thing is, number one, you have to know who you are. Self-awareness, that is absolute key. Because that is the only way you can become aware of others and you can understand others. Because without understanding yourself and without understanding others, there is no open and honest communication, there is no team, there is no attraction, there is no common ground, there is no commonality, there is no harmony, and there is no action that can be taken together or agreed upon together. That understanding of yourself and each other is so important to being able to get people to buy into a strategy. One of the aspects of leadership is that you have to get everyone to buy into it, take ownership of it. It has to be not just yours, it has to be ours. Everyone needs to be able to walk away from having spoken about something in their own minds, thinking that they have contributed something very, very valuable and pertinent. In that way, when we played, sometimes someone might not have. But if you are to feel valued and have self-worth, or a sense of self-worth, or a sense of self-confidence, a leader will recognize it, will actually attribute a large part of the strategy to your contribution, which in turn, of course, makes everyone not just feel good, but also actually actively play a part in taking things further.
As the time is running out, Kumar, I have only one question for you. I have got, to be exact, more than 2,000 odd questions to this iPad. So, one final question. How important is it to have good communication skills as a leader?
Absolutely important. It is one of the most vital things to talk openly, honestly, and not just that. Once you have spoken about something, to stand behind it with authority and conviction. I have only 20 minutes here, right? I'm a young guy, well, not young anymore, I used to be. I'm 40 now, right? A lot of us are from Sri Lanka, well, the majority of us are from Sri Lanka, right? You look at where we are as a people, as a country. And you come to an understanding very, very quickly that we are all in need of a change of mindset. A change of mindset. An absolute complete shift. Now you are the new young generation. You are the people who are going to be the leaders of our communities, our societies, of Sri Lanka, into whatever future we are going to have. So look at yourself and look at each other. 3,500 of you sitting here tonight. How many of you have the conviction to change yourself and in turn change someone else's life? Because if you have gone through life, through work, through leadership, whatever you want to call it, without having imparted anything positive in someone else, your life has been a waste, an absolute waste. Don't confine what you hear here, or learn here, or remember here to your place of work. Because leadership is required at home, it is required in the workplace, it is required in our day-to-day lives, it is required in our communities and societies. You decide what you want to leave behind. What sort of a family, what sort of children, what sort of society, what sort of community do you want to leave behind? We are a country that have gone through crisis after crisis. We are a country that keeps manufacturing crisis after crisis. We are a country that cannot escape sometimes our own narrow confines of our traditions and customs and our histories. If you guys want to be leaders, true architects of change, you cannot do it without courage. To stand up and be counted. And as Oscar Wilde said, the artist must at all times educate the critic. That is how, in my view, I try and live my life, and I would love all of you to do the same. Be people of value and worth. Be human, hold on to what is good. Examine your life completely to find out what is worth holding on to and what needs to be thrown away. And most of the time you will find that what needs to be thrown away are ideas that hold us back, that keep us exclusive instead of inclusive, and that makes us believe that we live life alone. You're all part of a larger Sri Lanka and a larger community, and the entirety of your life has to be of benefit to you, your family, and that larger community. So the question and the challenge is not for me to sit here and answer all the questions, but for you to answer these questions for yourself and for each other. If you can do that, you will not just leave behind a corporation, a building, or a name. You will leave behind what is truly a legacy that will last the ages, and you will all be recognized as being part of a generation of leaders that have done what no other generation has done. That is to make strong the foundation of your lives and the lives of others and of this country into something that is truly great, because it is based on humanness, on humanity and love. And that is my absolute last message to you on leadership. If you can build your entire business, your life, your relationships on love, that is, to me, absolute true leadership.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar Sangakkara.